All right. Next question. So this is a little bit more in the style of work and invisibility into engineering work. What's Sandy working on? She's a 10Xer. She can't be wasted. Can't she just do this thing over the weekend? What comes up for you, Eli?
Oh boy. Yeah, again, by the time you're getting that question, like that's not the thing that somebody, I mean, that's the thing that they think they're asking for is couldn't Sandy do that thing over the weekend? But like by the time you're getting to the point where someone is coming in and asking you to micro rearrange who's doing what on the day-to-day basis, like there's something going wrong already. So figuring out what it is. And I think a lot of it to me is like, is there a perception that you've got wildly different capabilities, that there's somebody, Sandy is the star who can get anything done, whereas this other person on the team or other people on the team are schmoes who aren't reliable or aren't getting good stuff done. Like there's a like, hey, hopefully that's not actually true. If that's actually true, that's one set of problems. If it's not actually true, there's a perception problem about why does somebody think that's true. But then I do think that the root of all of it is probably that it comes down to, as Andrew was saying before, there's something that's not getting done that this person wished would get done, or possibly everything is not getting done fast enough. Everything is slow. Everything is, this person has a mindset of the Tiger team who just goes real quick and bangs stuff out, just get shit done in whatever way, and that isn't the mechanics. And maybe for good reason that's not the mechanics, because like, no, we're not trying to just bang out a thing. We're trying to build something that we're going to put in front of lots and lots of customers, and it needs to be robust, and that takes time. So to me, it's all about, there's a direct answer to what's Sandy working on, but I think then there's a unpacking of like, let's talk about again how people, like, what it takes to bring a village together to actually get this thing out the door, and why having one person go hero it, as tempting as that may be today, is not the answer that's going to allow us to, in a sustainable way, do all the stuff that we need to do over the next days, weeks, months, years.
Patrick, I was gonna say, like, I'm agreeing with Eli, and I would just say, like, this particular one, I've been first class victim to this question, like when I was on the other side of this, like the said person was not named Sandy. We won't name the name, but the I think this shows up, like, just more side commentaries, like this generally shows up more with actually founder CEOs, like in the sense where they like harken back to a time when they actually knew all the engineers and they know said Sandy, and that Sandy was the hero that did a lot of things here on this stuff. And so, and like in some ways, this is the danger. Sometimes you have CEOs that think they know how engineering works, right? And so in this like this kind of situation, like whether you call it the 10x scenario, pick whatever flavor or thing you want, but like this said CEO thinks they know what a 10xer is. They read about it. A friend told them about it. This is like a big thing, right? And so they're really like fixated on that particular thing, and so they've fundamentally believed that the way forward is like all things are about Sandy and that stuff, and it's just like deep down ingrained in their thing. And back to the whole thing, you're right, like there's something they want that isn't getting done, and so this is their magic solution, which is calling back to 4 years ago. This is what we did. It was all about Sandy and that stuff, and it's not just romanticizing. They're trying to problem solve, and again, this goes back to your job to figure out what the problem was to begin with, which is like, we're not getting this thing done, or it's getting done the wrong way, or whatever the actual thing is. And so they're kind of fixated on this thing, and the 10x part is the rhetoric that goes around it. Look, and be clear, like I've worked with people that are clearly 10xers that are much more prolific than others, and like there's many reasons why. It could be skill set, it could be just nature of history of the code base. There's all these reasons why in those things. I think the particular on this one around 10xing though is, I think, like, again, it goes back to some form of distrust, something actually not actually happening. But like, I'll just speak for things at scale. There will be some point, like one might have an amazing developer. We all have worked with amazing developers before. Maybe you were lucky to be one in the past, right? Like, but like at some point, as your business grows, it will go beyond that person's skill, no matter what you do. Like, even if they're like the biggest hero, at some point, I don't care if it's like they're better than 10 people, they're better than people, like, but some way you will cross that threshold where you have to rely on more than one hero. It just has to be. And I'm not going to pick the threshold for any individual company because I don't know them, but there will be some point where that's the case. And so then it's about the team and the process and like how we actually can go beyond that. Because if you're stuck behind one person, then your company will only scale as far as that person can go. And they are human no matter how prolific they are. And you will hit some wall at some point. And so, like, again, in this moment, I'm actually, because I've been on the other side of this, I'm playing a little bit of the engineering side of this thing, which is like, I actually think that like part of the job is to like get the business to realize that conclusion, to get the romanticism out of that, like this individual's head, or it's never going to get past this, right? To be blunt, right? Like, that systems do matter, teams do matter at a certain scale. And so, like, that's the reason why things need to be spread across multiple people. And that's why we need to actually get around the corner on these things. So, like, it's a, like that's part of the systems discussion or the patterns part of it, right? Now, I'm going to take a quick moment and actually flip and flip the other way and actually be the CEO for a quick second around what sometimes is lost, right? Sometimes there is this really like company linchpin thing that has to happen. Like it is a thing that is like, it is non-linear. It's like, if we just get this customer over this thing, then we will literally close this, account. Revenue goes up. We'll get that funding around. Like all this stuff is linchpinned on this thing. And it is disjoint. It is not a thing that is the same as every other feature. That there is something here that like people aren't realizing. If we lose this account, if we don't get this thing shipped by this date, we lose all kinds of things, or we can't do this thing. And so I think sometimes the businesses actually aren't the best at also expressing those situations either, right? And so like it's possible that maybe in this one time, even though we have 100 people, that Sandy really doesn't need to do this because she is the only person on this thing. We don't like, while it would be great if Douglas and the rest of the team learned how to do this and then make them productive in 6 months, maybe that there's really one-time thing that has to happen here. We need to get Sandy on it because it needs to happen. It is so important. And the engineering leader doesn't actually, Eli, you didn't get this. You just somehow like you missed it. I didn't say it right. You didn't hear me. This is like above and beyond more important than any system sustainability answer on this stuff. This is existential. We have to do this, right? And that could be another nature of the conflict where like there's a severity thing the business just did not like it was not heard, right? The severity of this thing. And so like sustainably be damned, like we need to have to do this one thing. Now, like I'm gonna flip one last time. Every once in a while there's CEOs that thinks every freaking thing is that one thing. Well, then it's not a one thing then, right? So like that's the unpack in this stuff, which is again goes back to sussing out what is the thing we're trying to do and why is it like, so important that we're gonna throw out all other things for, right? Like and really sussing that part of it out.
Yeah. And so from a CEO whispering point of view, for me, that's exactly when it's the conversation to have here is why Sandy on this thing? What are we trying to do? And is it, if the goal is what is the fastest, most way with highest confidence that we're going to get this thing done the very fastest, like, let's just do that, however unsustainable or unscalable that thing is to do, but we just need to do it. That absolutely does happen. But let's just make sure we're addressing it in those terms, because it may be that having Sandy go do that is the right, best, most high confidence way to do it. But it might actually not be. It might be that the 37th employee who the CEO doesn't know is actually the one who's best positioned to go bang that thing out real quick. And only by having the conversation of what are we trying to do can we do that. And then ditto, like I certainly, and I'm sure you have too in your time, Andrew, been part of the other side of that conversation where everything is existential and life-threatening. And the minute you get through the one, if we don't do this, we weren't going to live to have the next one. But it's also very hard to work in that environment where like if every single thing is always a sprint, there's like, you can do that for a little while and then just everybody runs out of gas. So you need to figure out how to get out of that mode if that's the mode that you're in.
Micro tip. Like you just did a thing where you said, hey, CEO, like, why is this important? And I'll just say it from the other side of the fence, that is a stereotypical engineering response, which is challenging the person to express the problem. And I would say a lot of business people get frustrated by that demeanor. So another way to tackle that and answer that in the same moment, Eli, is to go the other way and be like, okay, like we're gonna move Sandy on this thing. Like let me get back to you on how it's gonna work. Okay, like if you really think so. So like we're gonna move Sandy across here, but I just want to gut check with you that like this means that we're gonna, not deliver X, and Z is definitely just off the rails, right? So it seems a little crazy to me that you actually want to get Sandy on this thing so that we can do this other thing, but like this is what you want, right? And so in that like that actually is another way to answer or pose the question that will actually cause reassessment on that one, with actually doesn't fall into that kind of engineer repose the question for me in a more like like thing that will accomplish the same thing.